So, this is Alan Stewart, leader of Dansk, Jarl of Dansk. I am starting a video series on what it takes to be a leader in the modern Viking movement and Viking Age reenacting. Part of the draw, as I have said in other videos, to the Viking Age is the fact that so much is not really known about the Viking Age, due to the fact that history is written by the victors and the Viking Age did not end so well for the Scandinavians and others that call themselves Vikings. So a lot of what we have to do is we have to fill in the blanks. There are multiple topics in which we cannot know the full depth of what it was to be a Viking, or to be a Scandinavian during the Viking Age, or a Slav, or a Rus, or even some of the people that were plagued by the constant raids, or the people that traded with the Vikings. Now, many things such as music, there was none written down or anything like that, so a lot of the modern Viking movement is about recreating what would have been music at the time, using instruments that have been found to create a sound that seems close to the culture. Now, a lot of that may come from just taking modern music and using period instruments to create the music itself. So you as a group leader are going to have to decide where you part from authenticity to continue to make the Viking Age a reality for either an audience or for your group. The way my group does it is that we try to be as authentic as possible with what has been found archaeologically. And then, when there are missing pieces, due to either degradation or the fact that it was just not in the gravesite itself, then we try to extrapolate using basically modern technology and how it has progressed over time, and try and take logical steps back to that point to see if we can either find something somewhere else similar to what our concept is, or keep it as simple as possible to make it so that we have a Viking appropriate item. Part of your job as a leader is, when you are either setting up authenticity standards or you have somebody who is setting up authenticity standards, is to make sure that the lines are something you can achieve and something that attributes to any kind of safety or anything like that. A lot of festivals have mobile fire pit requirements because you can't really dig into the grounds of some fairgrounds and everything like that. So you have to decide where you're going to go with that. Part of also being a leader is the constant being a full-time Viking. You're going to wind up doing a whole lot of work and spending a whole lot of money just to make sure that things get done. Because when you first start out, you're going to have a whole mess load of newbies. Most of the time, you're never going to find somebody else who has any kind of fighting skill, any kind of crafting skill that moves to the Viking Age. So you got to basically dive yourself in. You have to be not just a jack of all trades, but realistically a king of all trades, until you can convince people to either take up a craft or take up research once you get some recruits going along. On the topic of that, much like right now, I am actually cutting apart, as we are doing this video, a whole bunch of pieces for safety gear for when we do combat fighting demonstrations. And this is a part of being a leader. You have to dive yourself completely and entirely in to it every waking moment, late nights, just crafting. Not to mention, you're going to spend probably about 2 to 3 hours on social media, updating a Facebook page, sending out recruitment messages, and everything like that, because when you're recruiting, you are looking for the people who are going to fit you. There are plenty of organizations out there that will have full and open recruitment. Anybody can come and join. It doesn't matter how hard you work or anything like that, so long as you show up to meetings. Like, then there's my organization, where you are expected to contribute in some way. If you can't craft for beans, if you can't fight very well and don't really want to fight, then what you're going to be doing at most of the festivals is keeping the fire going, chopping wood, cooking the meals, and everything like that, because our group believes in all for one. Because all for one and one for all, you know, the whole statement of everybody contributes, everybody matters, and everybody should be treating everybody in the group as if they are a family. And then there are other groups that their recruitment policy is even on the most opposite end of the spectrum as the first type of group that I said, where they are looking for that key and special someone who is going to fit their one specific type of human being that really is going to help the group drive forward, such as some organizations are very fighter focused. They want guys that are the super gung-ho fighters, are going to constantly do everything they can to up their skill. They're going to take HEMA classes. They're going to sit at their house swinging a sword and shadowboxing for 2 hours. Now, none of these different types or any kind of variant or mixture of the 2 or 3 would be a bad group. There are benefits and cons to every single type of group and every single which way that you go. If you're going to let everybody in, you're going to have a lot of people. But you may get people who are basically going to use the group to go to free festivals. They're not really going to contribute much to the group as a whole. And then if you go on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, you're not going to get many people, and you may lose good people just because the initial push for the perfect personality will take somebody who could, in lesser circumstances of intensity, be molded into what you want for a group member. So you've got to really pick and choose what you're going to do, and you got to stick with it, because eventually you're going to find people for your type of group. I've started multiple groups, and I have made it so that I had lots of failings, a lot of things fell through. I left a larger organization and had to start anew outside of that. And the fact is that the first step that really boosts your movement onto the field of actually becoming a group is you have to find your second in command. The person that is going to be either the complete opposite of you or somebody that is so goddamn close to you, you're just two sides of the same coin. It's got to be somebody that you trust to shoot you down. But when they shoot you down, they're going to shoot you down in private. And they're going to call you out on all your bullshit. You want them to have different ideas than you and everything like that. so that you have really good ideas from multiple different angles. This is a very key and important step. You got to find the one guy who is crazy enough to do what you're doing. Because you starting a Viking group means that you are extremely passionate about the Viking Age. You got to do you're willing to do the research. You're willing to build 10 tents out of your own money just so that you can get people out there. I've had multiple experiences where I've had to take both of my vehicles and to pack everybody's stuff inside of my Dodge Dakota's back end, and then take this, what we call the Silver, it's an 8-passenger SUV, and literally pack it completely full of people and gear to the point where you can hear a vacuum every time it opens up the door. And then drive them all the way to Missouri. You have to be completely insane to be a part of this movement, and even worse so, certifiably throw you in a nutty bin just for being a leader within this type of group, because you're going to be spending all your money on technology that's 1,000 years old. And you have to be prepared as a leader to be able to convince people that this is what they want to do with their life, to create something bigger than themselves. This falls into the same category of whether you are creating a group completely out of nothing, or you are creating a group that's going to attach onto another organization. This is the first step on your path, is to, as I said, first figure out what you're trying to do. Second is to research, because nobody's going to follow somebody who is not knowledgeable. Second is dive in and invest into the group, even when it's just you, for the time being. Because nobody's going to want to follow somebody who doesn't get their hands dirty, who doesn't jump into the pond themselves first. Because if you're not willing to throw down hundreds of dollars just to get the group going, not including your personal gear, but just to get the group going, nobody's going to want to throw $10 down when you guys want to do a combined project. Now, the fourth part of creating a group and everything like that is completely important is recruiting. And as I said, first, find your second in command.